So before I get into the nitty-gritty of this video, I did first want to leave the timestamps on screen. So if you're only here for a certain part, feel free to skip ahead. You don't gotta listen to me ramble the entire time, so if you're only here for a certain thing, feel free to skip on ahead. I also do want to preface this video isn't going to be going over every single model in exquisite detail or anything like that. This is mostly just to show people how the pack is organized and how to use certain parts of it that might be a little confusing. So I'm not going to go over every little new thing that I've added. I will show some screenshots on screen though, if you want to see what's in the pack and what's included. On top of that, I do apologize for this video being a little informal. I've tried reading scripts in the past for videos like this, and it does not work for me. I kind of just get scatterbrained really easily, as I naturally do, so it's just a bit easier for me to wing it, so I do hope the informal nature doesn't make it too hard to follow or anything like that. But yeah, I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you have fun with the models as well. So, it's been about 2 years since I released the first Barotrauma asset pack. So it's been a hot minute, but now that I have finished my latest animation, The Nest, and there was a Barotrauma project I was working on before that I haven't really been able to finish and has kind of just been put on the back burner, I have quite the new slew of assets to add to this thing, and figured now is time to update it and release it to the public again. So I will preface though, these assets are far from perfect. I am a bit of an amateur. Some stuff could probably be better optimized, better weight painted, better rigged, but I did my best, so I hope you guys do at least have fun with the models, even if they're not perfect. If you do want to download the pack, you should be able to find a link in the description to a Google Drive folder, and you can download them from there. It should be about 3 gigabytes once you unzip everything, and it is made for Blender, intended for versions 4.0 and above, though you probably could get it to work with older versions. 4.0 and above is just what I guess would recommend, because that's what I've tested it on. On top of that, I also do recommend using these models in cycles. That's kind of what I made them for and what I found the best results with, but of course, you know, use whatever render engine you want. I just find that cycles work the best for me. But yeah, once you download the pack, you'll notice all these subfolders here on the top right under the scene collection. There's one for the various props, the character models, the structural pieces, so like the interior submarine walls and stuff. And then I have a separate folder for the submarines, or in this case, the submarine, because only the dugong has been made. And a lot of these have a bunch of subfolders that allow you to hide or view certain things. So I think I will start with the characters first. Most of this is pretty self-explanatory, but there are a couple of things with the rigs I've done that I do want to go over, just because it can be kind of confusing to people that aren't familiar. So most of the rigs do have pretty standard rigs, or a lot of the human ones have like IK rigs, like my diving suit did. But some of them have some additional stuff, like the Watcher here. It is a pretty standard rig, but he does have something for the eye called shape keys, and it is a very normal thing in 3D. Shape keys have been around forever, but I know not everyone has used them or run into them, so they might not know where to find them. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So to use the shape keys for this guy's eyelids here, you'll want to click on the Watcher, and then select the Data tab. Scroll down and you'll see this thing that says Shape Keys. It should already have eyelids closed selected, but when you click on this and go to this nifty little slider, you can open and close the eyelids. And this is really nice because trying to actually make a rig for the eyelids, which I did try initially, was kind of a disaster. And that's when I learned about shape keys, and it makes this so much easier. And as expected, you know, you can change the value and keyframe it and all that stuff. So if you want to make them blink or squint, that's how you would do it. The rest of the rig, though, pretty standard stuff. Big control bone, lots of bones for the limbs here, and then a bone here with a damp track on the eyeball bone so it follows it. So the Watcher is pretty simple. I just know the shape keys are not something that everyone has used or run into before. The next thing though is a bit weirder, and one of the main reasons I'm making this video, just because it's probably going to catch a couple people off guard, and that's the tail rigs for some of the models. So let me use the Mud Raptor as an example. So if you grab the Mud Raptor's tail rig here, you'll see that it kind of flows on its own. And this is because of that same damped track bone constraint, but it's working on the tail bone. So if you go to bone constraints, you'll see that the tail bones are targeting the ones in front of them with a damp track, and it's kind of, the influence kind of varies a little bit based off of what I was looking for. but it creates this cool effect where the tail kind of flows on its own, so you don't really have to animate it all that much. It's really nice, and the rest of the Mud Raptor has like some standard IK stuff with the legs, but the rest of it's pretty standard. It's a really nice thing, and I think it looks really good, especially on the Tiger Thresher, because it creates a really fluent swimming animation where you don't have to manually keyframe everything. It can do some weird stuff, so if it gets in a spot that you don't like and you kind of want to tone it back a bit, selecting the different bones and then hitting Alt-R will very slowly kind of get it back into normal position. Otherwise, if you just don't want to deal with it at all, one thing you can do that I've had decent success with is selecting all the tail bones that have the modifier, which should be all of them except the very first one and the very last one usually. So selecting all the tail bones that have the modifier, going once again over to your bone constraints, and then pressing Alt and Enter on the Enable button at once, and that will turn it off for all the bones, and it is allowed to act more like a standard rig, so you don't have to worry about that stuff. I will say I've had mixed results with it on some of my models. Sometimes it works, other times I have to actually delete the damp tracks for it to go away. I don't know why that is. I probably set a rig up wrong on something, but if worse comes to worse, you might just have to delete the damp tracks if you don't want to have them on the model there. But yeah, otherwise, pretty standard, nice little IK rig that's fun to play with. Really like how this guy turned out. I think he turned out really well. Besides the new creatures and the new rig stuff, the other thing I wanted to go over with the characters is the human classes that I made. So I made a variety of different outfits. Should be one for each class, and they all have different pieces in these subfolders. So like headgear, there's the health scanner, ballistic helmet, a balaclava, stuff like that you can interchange. So if I don't want this captain's hat, I can select this little exclude from view layer, click it, and then clip, let's say, the ball cap. And I can change that there. A lot of the clothing pieces are compatible, but not all of them are, so you might see some clipping. You might have to go into edit mode and modify some stuff if you want a specific look. But yeah, some stuff might need a little bit of modification if you want to get it to work together. A couple things I do want to note about this character model. He does have a different rig than the diving suit. I haven't updated the diving suit's rig to this just yet because it took me forever to get that guy properly weight painted. I could probably transfer the weights over, I just need to do a bit of research on it. This is an Auto Rig Pro rig. He has a pretty simple rig, basic IK rig, kind of standard stuff, pretty nifty. But one thing I do want to note is there is no face rig, and the reason for that is this head here. I didn't model this, by the way. This was from blender.org. It was like a community project. I'll link to that in the description. I just put this really crappy texture on it. Essentially, it's just a placeholder. I might give it a face rig at some point. I know most people are probably going to use their own characters on this anyway, but I might do that at some point if people want it. But it's mostly there just so I could fit pieces of headgear and stuff and have everything scaled to a certain degree. There is a fair few different clothing items, and as I showed, if you want certain stuff, you can just go down to one of these sub groups here, deselect that exclude from view layer, and then pick whatever it is that you want. And as I said, yeah, not everything quite perfectly fits together. With a bit of modification, most of it should fit fine. So going away from the characters, I think that's most of the prominent stuff I wanted to show. Let me go over to the props here. So I do actually have a bit of more organization for this. I have these little sections for tools, weapons, shelves, and stuff like that. And you can select the aforementioned collections, kind of open them up to select whatever you want. And this is just so if all the props, because there's actually quite a few of them, I mostly organize it this way because if all the collections are open at once, and God forbid you accidentally hit that viewport shading button, yeah, Blender doesn't like that. So I did this just so it's easy to keep everything organized and you don't accidentally crash your program. So a lot of these props also do have rigs as well. Like for example, the revolver here does. If I go into pose mode, you got a little bone for the break action on the revolver, for the hammer, the control bone for the trigger, stuff like that. Of course, not all the props have a rig, because most of them don't need it, but some of them have it, and it allows you to do some fun stuff with them too. But yeah, besides tools and weapons, you got shelves and lockers and crates. Most of this is from the first version. Electrical items, and some of the bigger props have, you'll notice this big circle around them. This is an empty, and this is just so for the bigger props it's easier to grab them and move stuff around. For some of the smaller stuff, like the crates, I just have the lids parented to the bottom, so you just have to grab the bottom for them. But for these really big assets, I didn't want to join all the pieces together because it's really can be kind of a pain to animate certain stuff later if you do that. So to keep most of the pieces individual, I just parented them to an empty, and I think that works well. And oh yeah, besides electrical, we have some mechanical stuff too. We have some miscellaneous stuff, like the bed, the mining stuff, the giant drill, which I'll actually go over here in just a second. And then, we have the reactors and decals from before, with the inclusion now of the saltwater reactor you can find on the various outposts. So something kind of cool about the drill, actually, is it will actually animate itself. So if you move it backward and forward, the tank treads on it will move. And if you rotate it, they'll also rotate accordingly. I was not smart enough to figure this out on my own. There was a tutorial I had followed for rigging a tank. I'll see if I can find it. I might put that up on screen for those curious. So some of the models actually have like emission shaders and like lights on them. Most people in Blender are familiar with this, but I do want to pass this along just for some folks that are a bit newer. So you might notice that the lights are not currently on this drill. So if you want to turn them on, all you got to do is click on the drill and then go to your shader tab or shading tab. And then if you go over here to your principled BSDF, there's a little emission section, and all you got to do is increase or decrease the strength, and you can turn the lights on. So besides props, the other two sections I want to go over are the structural pieces. Oh yeah, and the submarine. So yeah, let me pull up the interior pieces first. So I've added a couple new interior pieces from last time. So I added a couple new walls here. These are like the clean variants. Here are the rusted variants. Some new ceiling pieces, a new door piece. This really cool hatch that you can move on the y-axis there. Not a whole ton of new additions from before, but there are a couple, some new walls and stuff. Also, before I forget to mention, some of the walls, most of them should have mirror modifiers on them. So if you go down to your little modifiers tab and you click this little enable axis mirror on the y-axis, you get an identical wall on the other side, which is kind of nice, so you don't have to line anything up. I also do highly recommend using the array modifier, so you can kind of make hallways and stuff really easily. Just a small thing, but figured I would note it. A lot of Blender users are very familiar probably with the mirror modifier, but still wanted to make people aware of that, just because it is kind of nifty. And the last thing I want to go over would be the submarine. So I've only made one so far, and it's not super detailed on the inside or anything like that. It's based off of the Dugong, mostly because that is by far probably the most iconic submarine in Barotrauma. I mean, if you go to the workshop, it's definitely the most remixed submarine, that's for sure. But it's got some neat stuff on it. We got this coil gun here. That's rigged. It's got this cool little door, this hatch. It's got a big empty that you can animate on it. I might make more submarines at some point. I'll try and maybe make the future ones a bit more detailed. I do think this one could have had a bit more detail, a bit more spice, but I think for a first attempt, it's not that bad. But yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything. I didn't show every new thing that I had made in like exquisite detail, just because this video would have taken quite a while. So if you've been watching the YouTube shorts, you've probably seen most of the new stuff I've added, the new creatures, the new props, stuff like that. I do think this is quite a sizable update. I wouldn't expect an update of this size to happen probably ever again, just because this is effectively 2 animations worth of stuff being uploaded at once. So I guess kind of to wrap things up, if you do download this pack and you need a bit more help, like you run into a problem or you notice a bug or you just have a general question, of course, feel free, you can leave a comment on this video. If you're in the Barotrauma Discord, you can probably direct message me from there since it's a mutual server. I'm not really active in there. I mostly just lurk to see what the latest updates for the game are, and you should be able to direct message me if you have any questions over Discord. And if you do want to keep up with updates, for big updates, I'll probably release more videos like this one, just to go over the new stuff. And for smaller stuff like bug fixes, stuff like that, I'll probably just make community posts on YouTube. But yeah, I do hope you guys have fun with the asset pack. If you do make some cool stuff with it, feel free to send it my way. I would love to see what people are making with my stuff. I always think that is a really cool element of releasing these type of things. So yeah, that'll be all I have for you today. Hope you guys have some fun, and I will see you on the next one. Stay safe.